Hi, welcome to Chad's Silversmithing. Before we get too far into the video, if you wouldn't mind hitting the like button, that really helps to get my channel promoted, and I appreciate that immensely. I also love it when people leave comments, so if you have a suggestion for a video, a question about this one, you want to tell me how you do things, or you just want to say hi, that's really nice. So I appreciate those things. One of the things I do every month for my patrons over on Patreon is I give them a monthly theme to maybe help them come up with some ideas for jewelry. And this month's theme was flowers, and earlier I made them for an exclusive video. I made them a calla lily kind of bracelet, and I thought I'd do some flower things today too. So I'm going to do 3 different kind of simple flower pendants of varying difficulties probably. And I've pre-made a couple of things. I made the bezels in advance for 2 of them. The third one is not going to have a stone in it, so I think they should be pretty. I guess we'll find out when we're done. Before we do, though, let me thank some groups of people. First off, the patrons that I just mentioned earlier. Thank you for being my patrons. I really enjoy your company, and I've enjoyed the group you've created over there. And I really do appreciate all of your support. You're kind of my core supporters, and I couldn't do this without you, so thanks for that. My other group is my YouTube subscribers. If you're not a subscriber, I'd love to have you as one. I currently have 21,200, I think we just passed, and that's amazing. Thank you for that. I love the nice comments I get on YouTube. It's really nice as a teacher to know that you're helping some people to learn something new. So when you tell me that, that makes me really happy. So thanks for that. Thank you also for the super thanks and the buy me a coffees. With the material prices having gone up so much, it really helps a lot. So thank you for that. And thank you for those of you who've bought my ebooks or my merchandise. So those are great ways to support my channel. Thank you for that. All right, well, let's get started on these 3 projects. This is one of my design idea sketchbooks that you can get on my merch store. The more recent ones, I put some useful charts on the back. For instance, this one has a wire gauge to inches to millimeters, and I find that pretty useful sometimes. I also draw up my designs in these anymore. I filled up a few of them now since I started the YouTube channel, but they have this nice grid pattern in the background that I find helpful when I'm drawing sketches. So if I try and freehand things, they end up not being very neat usually. Okay, here's today's projects that I was thinking. Like I said, I pre-made some bezels. I picked out a piece of amber, I think. Let's see how big this is. Oh, it looks like about a 10 millimeter, maybe 9 or 10 millimeters. So I made a little bezel with a step in it so it has an open back, and we use that. For both of the bezels I use 3/16 inch fine silver bezel strip, which is 4.76 millimeters, and I use the 26 gauge, which is 0.41 millimeters or so. The little step is made out of 18 gauge round. And this is the same here. I did it for this one up here. And this is a Carnelian, and it's a really intense orange Carnelian. I've bought a few of these at the last show, and I really liked them, so I thought I would use one of those. They're kind of flower-like. It is springtime. Let's make some flowery stuff, yeah? For other materials, the third thing I'm going to, well, let me talk about all of them. First one is going to be this one, and this is by far the most complicated one to put together, so not necessarily the easiest one of the 3, but that's the first one I'm going to do. So I probably will show you how to make one of these petals, and then I'll go off camera and make the rest because it's going to be time consuming to do that, so it may take me an hour or so to finish those up. The second thing is just going to be a wire frame, and I drew it big, and then I was going to use 16 gauge round wire, but I decided I was going to use 18 and make it a little bit smaller. So I'm going to scale this down a bit, and it's basically going to be just a silhouette of the flower made out of wire, thin wire, and so it'll be a good practice for making, doing kind of complicated shapes with thin wire. And then finally we'll do this one. It's kind of a flamey looking flower, and I don't really know much about flowers, honestly, but I like the looks of this one. It's kind of cool. It's got 5 petals like this one does. This one's just going to have 2 pieces for each petal, but both of these I'm going to use flattened 16 gauge square wire. So I pulled some 14 gauge square wire into 16 gauge to make it smaller, and then I rolled it through my rolling mill to make it about, let's see how high that is, probably about 0.9 millimeters would be my guess. I'm kind of swagging it there, but that's about right, a little less than a millimeter. That way it'll have some strength sideways because it's wider in that dimension, but it'll give it a relatively skinny profile from the front so you can see things. After I finish this one, I may bend those a little bit to make them more petal-like. The hard part about this one is going to be when you're soldering little things next to each other like this, the solder has a tendency to wick along seams like that, and so these are going to have a tendency to pull towards either over here or over here when I'm soldering them. So, but I'm going to make each of them separate, and I think I'll probably use, I normally use hard silver solder for almost everything, but I'll probably use hard silver on all of these, and then I'll attach them with maybe some medium or some easy to the bezel itself, and then we'll throw a bail on there. So I'll probably make the bail off camera. If you want to see a video how to make my kind of standard bails, I'll put a link up there for you. It's a nice easy bail to make. For this one down here, I found another bail I made for a video a while back. Let's see if I can find that. There. Because I have a number of videos about making fancy bails, and this was one, and I thought, well, let's just recycle that one for today's project. So I'll make that for there. Originally I was going to just do another one of these kind of simple bails, but since I have this laying around, why not? And then this one, like I said, is going to be a wire frame, and I'll probably just connect two little loops here and we can add a split chain to it. So let's get started on making one of these petals. I'm going to decide how long of a piece I'm going to need for each of these petals by cutting, I'm going to have to estimate a little bit, but I'm going to cut one of them and then we'll use that as a guide for the future ones. So I'm thinking, this much here, so let's double that, and then an additional amount up here. So about yay long. Very scientific, right? I'm pretty certain we can get enough out of that one. So, and to start with, I think I'm gonna go, let's find the center of it first. Actually, let's use it to mark another one so I don't lose track of how long I cut that. And let's measure it just so you can tell how long it actually is. 42 millimeters or so. Well, let's find the center. And then I think if you look at this here, it needs to have a little bulge here, and then a sharp corner here, and then kind of curve back around this way. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark off how far away from the center of the point this is, and I'm going to cut a little notch in there so we can make it a sharper bend. And then after we get it soldered there, we'll curve it back around. So, and I think to make a curve like that, I'm going to go 3 or 4 millimeters. How about 4 millimeters to each side? About like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to file a notch right there and right there. I use the corner of my bastard file here so I can get kind of a 45-degree angle there. I don't need to go very deep on these, they're not very thick, so I just want kind of a little 45-degree notch in there. You can brace this against something if that helps you. Where'd you go, pliers? There you are. Okay, so let's bend these inwards like this. If you're new to my channel, I use, like I said earlier, primarily hard silver sheet solder. I use a flux that liquid flux that I dribble on with a dropper bottle. My torch is a Silversmith model. It's our acetylene air torch. It draws in atmospheric air through the little hole here and mixes it in the chamber, so we have a mixture of the gas that burns nicely and hotter than propane. Not quite as hot as the oxyacetylene, but you don't really need that for silver work, so this is kind of a perfect torch for this. I use a #1 tip for pretty much everything too. Let's make sure this is sitting flat like that. Sometimes wire torques a little bit on you. And then I'm going to cut some little tiny pieces. I'm trying to use up some of these little bits I have over here. I do primarily pick soldering. That does not mean you have to do it that way. However, I have found it to be one of those techniques that made me quite a bit better at doing this. And so if you're interested, I will put a link right there for you. I have a good video about it, so I think you'll find that it's one of those skills that takes you to a brand new level once you kind of get the hang of it. It takes a little practice, but basically it allows you to pick up a little bit of solder on the pick, heat your piece up to the soldering temperature, just touch it there, and it should just jump on there like that. Supposing that you got it to the temperature at the right, and touched it right at the right moment there, which you kind of get the hang of after a bit. Okay, I'm going to grab this in the middle here with my round nose pliers, and I'm just going to kind of like make that bump. Kind of like that. So we got kind of a sharp bend that way. Now it's torqued a little bit like that, so let's fix it while we have it at this stage anyway. So it's less fixing later on. Okay, so I'm going to grab it right there like that. And the wire itself will kind of pull itself into the shape you want it if you kind of pull it the right way. We can even, one side kind of bends back this way a little bit. We can even do that right now if we want to. Kind of want it to be like that. So when I'm looking at this lengthwise, I need to cut quite a little bit off of there. So let's take a bit here. Get these lined back up kind of nice. Our next step is going to be to, let's see, I made that mark over here, so let's use this side. Just file that in flat. So we want this piece to go in there like the center point of that. And notice they all have a little bit of a curve, so I'll curve those a bit. These are based on stuff I've seen before. This is a piece of clip art I saw. I think there was a real pendant that I saw somewhere that looked like this. I just remembered the three things in the middle of each of the petals. And this one, I've done this one before a few times. Let's cut it off just a little bit long so it sits upright like that nice when we go to solder it together. That's about how I want it, so let me make sure I have some small pieces. Okay. I've already got a little bevel cut on these because of the way my cutter is cut. But I want it to be a little bit steeper so it notches right into those corners. So I'm just going to kind of do a little bit steeper angle there. Let's bend this slightly. Do the same thing right there. So let's make a mark about where I want it to be. Right there. Cut it off there. Second one I want it to be a little bit shorter. Maybe right there. So I'm going to use a couple of T-pins to keep one of them in place while I place the other one. Can you see how I used a couple of T-pins to partition those off so it can't slurp itself over to one side or the other? That's one way to deal with that. You can see this one's quite a bit of piecing together and stuff. Maybe a little bit more. Hopefully you can see that after I placed that solder there, before I got it to fully flow, I used my pick to kind of hold this in place so it didn't jump to either side. So now we have our first petal. So we got to do 4 more of those, which I will do. Pretty close to right where they all come together, so I'm just going to snip it off there and file it. Right about there. I think I'm going to thin this down a little bit. Alright, I'll be back in a couple of minutes and we'll put the rest of this together for the first one. So, be right back. So, I have 5 of these now. They're not all 100% exactly the same, but I am going to line them up and see which way they look best, but I've split this into 5 sections using my drawing here earlier. But the way I did that was I have this template. Got these at Joann's actually, but they have not a hexagon, but a pentagon around the circle there. So I was able to use that as a guide to line those up. You can also use polar graph paper, which is really useful. So I'll try and use that as a guide. Oh, I'm going to create a slight concavity on these really quick with my rotary tool. Let's see how that looks. I'm going to use, like I said, I'm going to use some lower temperature solder. Let's use some medium. Let's give that a shot and see if we can't get that to cook together. I had a little faux pas happen over here. Okay, now I have a little ring I cut, And this is the little bail I was talking about. So let's move that ring over here. This is 16 gauge. Actually, let's kind of look at this and see which side looks make sure everything's pretty symmetrical. Sometimes one side looks better up than the other if it's slightly not perfect. Okay, so let's put this on here. Okay, so I'm gonna let that pickle. We'll start working on the second one. I think for this one, so we're going to downsize it. Let's start with making an 18 gauge loop, smaller than this, and then we'll corrugate it kind of like that and shape it, and then we'll work off of that, I believe. That'll be a good starting place. I got more of an oval there now. Let's use our round nose pliers. Not sure if this is going to be a big enough loop or not. That's probably good enough. Now we need to make a little wavy line that goes like that with a little kind of egg yolk on top of it. Just kind of like that. Still have a little bit of solder there. Let's see if we can get this on there. Okay, so now we need a couple of wires going down like this. I'm just going to do a V, I think, to start with. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I think sometimes when I need to figure out an exact spot where I'm going to mark something, do this little marker trick, and then use a pin You scratch, make a scratch in the marker there. That'll get us pretty close. Okay, I'm going to continue this process all the way around, then we'll add a stem, and then I'll put a couple of jump rings on there, so I'll be right back. Okay, I made an executive decision while I was finishing up these here. I found a little bit of twisted wire on my table made out of, it's either 20 or 18 gauge round wire, and I thought that would make a good stem for this, so I added that on there. Now I just need to solder these two little rings on there, and we'll be good on this one. I may cut that stem a little bit shorter too. Okay, let's let that one pickle. And we'll come back to it at the end. Okay, for this final one, we have this. And I did some test runs. And again, I'm using the 16 gauge. It's flattened. But I flattened a second part of it into a little bit flatter than the original was. So the original was, what, 0.9 millimeters or so. This one's about half as thick, I would guess. Because I wanted a smaller one to fit on the inside here. So I'm just going to make one of these in front of you, and then I'll go make the rest of them. Mm-hmm. So that's about the angle I want. So we can cut off this end pretty close to the length of that one, I think. Let's solder that closed. Actually, let's do a little one too at the same time. That way it'll save some time on the film. This is going to be kind of a long video, I think. Again, kind of a sharp angle-ish. Sharpish. I already shaped some. I can kind of use those as a guide. Do the little one first. These probably don't have to all be exactly the same, but close. Let's see. This is the new one I just made. Those are pretty close anyway. So, I don't even think I need to trim that one. Here's the one from earlier. So we'll just be doing that all the way around. So I need to make 3 more of each, and then we'll throw a jump ring on there, and then we'll add that veil that I talked about earlier. So I'll be right back. I had a little problem happen on that one. I have to remake that one probably. Okay, I'm going to cut this one off and put a new one on there. Right back. Gonna have to be good, because I'm getting tired. It actually looks pretty good. So. This one's going to need to be narrower though, I think. So you got to be careful with these ones shifting again on you. I guess I could use the T-pins if I need to. This one was looking a little close to that one, so I nudged it a bit, which was a calculated risk. And I'm just going to solder one side, feed this through there, and then we'll solder the other side with some easy solder or something. So let's get this attached. Alright, I'll put it in the pickle and we'll get it cleaned up. So I got everything polished up and I set the stones. I'm really pleased with how this one came out. Actually, I bent the leaves forward a little bit and then the ends of them back just to give it a little bit of shape. I think that's pretty. This one I'm okay about. This one I really like too. So I think out of these two, I'm not sure which one I like the best. You tell me in the comments which one of these three you like the best. I'll take some better pictures and put them at the end. Alright, well that was 3 different flower pendants. I hope you enjoyed those. If you did, make sure to hit the like button before you go. And I'd also love it if you'd take a moment and go visit my main channel page. I have been doing this for a little bit over 3 years at 3 videos per week, one on Tuesday, one on Thursday, one on Saturday. So I have a lot of content built up. There's over 480 videos, and so I'm almost certain that you'll find something else interesting or useful over there. So check those out. Come back, make sure to subscribe to my channel, and visit the video description down below. There are some good links down there that are useful. There's a link to my merch store, and I have some new merch. There's some coffee mugs that are kind of cute, and a t-shirt that has a positive message about art. And let's see, what else did we put up there? Oh, some magnets that encourage supporting artists. So check those out. You can also, as I showed you at the beginning, get those nice design idea books. I think those are great and useful, and I use them every day when I'm doing this. Another link is a link to my Patreon if you want to check out more about that community. It's a nice place with a lot of cool people, and multiple tiers of membership with different privileges. So check it out. And finally, my ebooks. My latest one is from 2024. It details all of the video tutorials I did during that year. And it includes a page for each one with pictures, materials lists, difficulty ratings, extra information about the project itself that I added, that I learned from doing it, or things I might do different, that kind of stuff, as well as a link right to the videos. So check those out. They're a great way to have a whole bunch of projects right at your fingertips, as well as a great way to support my channel. So thank you for that in advance if you do that. All right, well, thanks for watching today. Take care. Happy silversmithing.